Hello everybody, my name is Brianna Santos and today we'll be learning about our STEM lesson plan on how bees can help our community. This is a lesson plan designated for first graders. So, the objective and standards. For this lesson, the objective and standards are students will be able to understand how bees help flowers grow by moving pollen, participate in a simple hands-on pollination simulation, and make a connection between bees and in our local gardens or parks. This standard meets the ILSI 1 standard of using materials to design a solution to human problems by mimicking how plants and or animals use their external parts to help them survive, grow, and meet their needs. And standard K2 ETSI 1 by asking questions, making observations, and gathering information about a situation people want to change to define a simple problem that can be used through this development of a new or improved object or tool. Today, students will learn how to understand the role of bees in pollination, explore how community gardens rely on pollinators, mimic bee behaviors through a hands-on activity, ask and answer questions about how bees help plants grow, and also learn how to identify the basic needs of living things. Now, what are bees? Bees are small flying insects with fuzzy bodies. They come in different colors, like yellow and black, and they love flowers. Bees live in homes called hives and work together in big families called colonies. So, what do bees do? Bees fly from flower to flower to collect nectar, a sweet liquid, and pollen, tiny yellow powder. They use nectar to make honey and bring pollen back to their lives. How many of you have tried honey? Honey is super sweet and really sticky, so if you get it on your clothes, you might not like that. Next, what is pollen? How many of you guys have seen pollen? So, pollen happens when bees move from flower to flower. They carry pollen with them. This helps flowers make seeds and fruit. That's called pollination. Without bees, many plants would not be able to grow fruits and vegetables. So, what are some fruits and vegetables that we think that bees like or help us grow? Any ideas? Let's see. Bees help us grow things like apples, pumpkins, broccoli, strawberries, almonds, peppers, and watermelon. There are so many different other types of foods that bees help us grow and help us make. So without them, it would really impact our communities and our environment. How many of you guys like to eat food every day? I don't know about you, but Miss Brianna loves to eat food, and one of her favorite things is strawberries. So bees help move different seeds and pollination from flower to flower in order to make those plants grow and produce the fruits and vegetables that we like. Also, they help us move pollen to our nut trees that help us make peanuts, almonds, pistachios, and all that good stuff. Now we are going to move on and watch a quick little video about how bees help us make fruit.
How? Well, last time we followed a honeybee as she went about her day, and one of the things that we learned was that her most important job was to find and get food. She did this by flying around lots of different flowers and collecting some of their sweet nectar. Let's take a look at one of those flowers now. If we look really closely at the flower, we can see that it has lots of different parts. You probably already know the name of one of these parts. If you said petals, you're right. The parts on the outside of the flower are called petals. But have a look at this part, inside the flower. It's called the stamen, and it makes a yellow dust that we call pollen. If you carefully touch the top of this part of the flower, some of the yellow dust will probably come off on your finger. Pollen can also make some people sneeze, especially if there's a lot of it. But if you want to have fruit, you have to have pollen, because the pollen needs to travel from the stamen of one flower to a different part of another flower. And when it does, a tiny, tiny fruit will start to grow inside the flower. But where does the pollen have to go? It goes to this part of the flower, called the pistil. It's kind of long and looks a little like a vase or a bowling pin. The very top of the pistil is kind of flat, and it's covered with sticky, gooey stuff that's almost like glue. If pollen touches this gooey, sticky stuff, it gets stuck. Then, little bits of the pollen move down into the bottom of the pistil. And when that happens, the bottom starts to grow and swell up. It gets bigger and changes color, and the petals of the flower fall off. What's left is what we call fruit. So, to get fruit, it's important that pollen gets moved from the stamen of one flower to the pistil of another flower, and that some pollen gets stuck to the top of the flower's pistil. And this whole process is called pollination. And this is where bees come in. You might remember that bees get their food by drinking nectar from a flower. While a bee is moving around in a flower looking for that nectar, little bits of pollen from the stamen sticks to her legs, to her wings, and to her little fuzzy body. Then she flies off to another flower to get more food. And as the bee crawls all over the next flower, she bumps into the flower's pistil. So some of the pollen from the bee's body gets stuck to the top of the pistil. Then, if everything goes according to plan, in time, we'll get a nice piece of fruit. All of your favorite fruits start out this way, from tiny blueberries to giant watermelons. And bees aren't the only animals that pollinate flowers. Moths, butterflies, even bats and hummingbirds drink nectar from flowers. And when they do, they often carry pollen with them. But bees are some of the busiest and most important pollen carriers around. So the next time you enjoy a sweet summer treat like a peach or a cherry, you can thank a bee.
So, just like from the video, we learned that bees are a big part of how we get our food. They carry pollen on them and spread it to other plants in order to help them grow. Pollen and bees help plants grow. They help pollinate flowers. They give us yummy fruits. They help make vegetables, and they make sweet honey, and they feed other animals. Without bees and these animals in our communities, we will not have the food and necessities to create a stable environment. Bees help regulate our environment and make sure that the plants and surroundings are healthy and are receiving all the nutrition they need. Just like you, when you drink milk, your bones become stronger and stronger. And just like bees, when they pollinate each flower with their pollen, they become stronger and stronger and later produce fruit for us to eat. Now, it's time for you to turn your very own bee. What we will need are cotton swabs, glitter, and paper flower cutouts. For the Bee2Bee activity, each student will receive a cotton swab. They will have 4 to 5 artificial flowers around the classroom where they will go and pinch and use their cotton swabs to pinch a little bit of pollen into the center of each flower. As students fly around the classroom from flower to flower using their swab to collect and transfer different types of pollen. When students are traveling through classroom to classroom or through flower to flower, they can see how much their pollen is being moved around. Students are going to pretend that their cotton swab is a bee's leg and collect pollen from one flower and visit the others. After the lesson is complete, they will notice that there are many different types of pollen depending on where they went. Bees transfer lots of different types of pollen, and that allows them to become healthy and strong. Reflection. What did your bee legs do with the pollen? When bees land on flowers, their fuzzy legs and bodies collect pollen. As the bee flies to another flower, some of the pollen rubs off. The bee doesn't know it yet, but doing this is an important job by carrying pollen from one flower to another. Why is it important for flowers and gardens? The movement of pollen helps flowers go through the process of pollination. It's how flowers make seeds and grow new plants. Without pollination, many flowers wouldn't grow fruits or vegetables. So bees help gardeners full of blooming flowers, healthy plants, and foods we eat. And how do bees help our community? Bees help farmers grow fruits and vegetables by pollinating their crops. This means more food for our grocery stores and our tables. They also help keep parks and gardens beautiful and full of life. Bees even support animals who eat plants. So, they play a big role in the whole environment. Bees help our whole community stay healthy, fed, and connected to nature. Now, as you go home, I want you to tell your parents all about your Bee2Bee activity. It is your time to share with them what you learned today. Using this picture, I want you to go over the different types of steps a bee uses to help grow our food. Talk about how we can use the bees to help our Now, as you heard, bees are an important part of our community. Now, I want you to go home and tell your parents about your own bee story. Share with them what you learned today. By using this picture, I want you to go over the different steps a bee uses to help grow our food. I want you to be able to talk to them about how a bee uses its body to help keep our communities clean. From pollinating to seeds to the nectar, I want you to have. Now that you are able to become your own bee at school, it's your turn to tell your own story. Today, when you go home, I want you to share with your parent what you learned today. By using this picture, I want you to go over the different steps that we use to pollinate our flowers. Talk about how we can use a bee to keep our communities clean, such as creating gardens, making flower gardens, and vegetable gardens to help grow our own food. Talk about how a bee pollinates and how a flower gets its food. Great job, class. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow.